secular version of God, Mother Earth. And then you use the lie that population is the problem for Earth. You basically end up looking like, you end up looking at humans like pestilence. So I've watched.
Wow, he's so close. Maybe I wouldn't describe humanity as pestilence, but I would say that the success of our species and the proliferation of our influence over our environments, this is very population-based, right? So to say that population is not tied to it at all is wrong. Of course, it's not the only factor. It's not even necessarily the most important factor, but to say that we need to grow forever or to say population is not a factor, these are really poorly constructed arguments. So we know that Steven Crowder is a moron. We know why he's a moron, but we still enjoy picking apart his arguments for the sake of debate, right? It's something fun to do. Today we're going to do that. We're going to watch a video by Steven Crowder where he picks apart in his mind mainstream media news anchor Joy Reid on a few things, including the light topic of the replacement arena, you know, all these ideologies that have to do with this type of nonsense. So we're going to let him cook. We're going to talk to him, essentially, and we're going to take him seriously, knowing he has nothing serious to say. And by the end of it, we should probably have a few satisfying moments, right? So let's go check it out.
Joy Reid. Now, I know what you're thinking. Idiot. Sure. But she said yes, and I want to I want to discuss this because, of course, if you ever use the term, you know, the Great Replacement theory, you're immediately accused of being racist. But really what you're talking about...
So I'm going to be real with you. I haven't pre-watched this. I actually didn't know entirely what this was going to be about. Of course, I read the title and everything. I understood what we were getting into here. But, wow.
Is the replacement of natural-born citizens in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, so according to Steven Crowder, let's just respond. He says natural-born citizens in the United States being replaced is a theory. Okay. Natural-born. So if you're born here, you would be replaced. So it's only people coming into here. How far back does this go? Okay, we're not going to touch that, obviously. But, I mean, this is a great argument if you are Native American, right?
Also, some of the terminology might be a little bit confusing because the replacement rate, I'll just say sort of sustained birth rate, but the actual term is replacement birth rate, meaning you need to replace the previous generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's just trying to muddy the water with the word replace so that he can get it on YouTube. Pretty gross. This is Steven Crowder. This is what he does. So taking a horrible white supremacist rallying cry and basically muddying the waters with a bunch of random unrelated things that just happen to have the word replace in them. Great work there, Steven.
If you want to have a sustainable country.
Yeah.
So if you hear that, don't go, oh, David Duke. Just understand where we're coming from here. And this also applies to rules for thee and not for me. People like Joy Reid think that they can have children. They should have children, but you should not. And here's the thing. For her to have children or for her friends to have children, it must be virtuous. If you support having more children, it means you support slavery. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is that a straw man? No. Good thing I have the clips. She said yesterday that the United
Okay, you can't just say it's a straw man and for it not to be a straw man. I mean, you can't just label your fallacies and then hope to get away with them, Steven. Like, let's see the clip of her comparing it to slavery.
United States had enough people and there's no need. How do you know that they want you? They want you cold, alone, renting, and without family. Well, here's how you know. Joy Reid says, you don't need any more kids.
The United States has a population of north of 327 million people.
And?
Why do we need more kids? Are you saying the state of Alabama needs more kids? Why does the state of Alabama need more kids? More kids for what? There was a time when the state of Alabama absolutely needed more kids because, you know, Alabama was a slave state.
Oh. Pause.
Okay, so there's essentially what he's getting his hooks into. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of... I understand why they're going to jump into it, but...
I don't look, explain this to me like I'm 3. You know what? I'll give like I'm 5. Explain this to me like I'm a human being with rational thought. Because slavery, hold on a second, what are you saying? Are you saying that white slaveholders wanted to have more children so that they would outnumber the slaves and there would be no way for the slaves to support the economy? Or are you saying that they were standing by with their old Samuel Colts saying, "Hey, slaves, you better start banging," because they wanted to have more slaves who would outnumber themselves and overrun them as the slaveholder?
Yeah, no, not at all. Why she said that was, I guess, to be provocative, but it's essentially to, the way I understood her message there, and I'm not like a Joy Reid fan, but the way I understood why she said that is because we're talking about a place that has a history of exploiting people based on simply the number of people it's able to get its hands on that are being subservient or controlled or enslaved, right? So she's basically trying to say, like, well, some areas the population seems to be more important than other areas in terms of propagating some of these injustices, right? That's kind of what I got out of it. I could be off on that, but certainly not this.
Are you saying that they just wanted everyone to screw like rabbits and let the cards fall where they may, leading to an inevitable civil war 20 years, what's one generation down the line? You can just say slavery, but show your work, because none of those equations, as far as I make any sense. Let's continue with the clip. And
all right, so just to be clear, he's saying, like, okay, are you saying that white people back during slavery had a bunch of children and that allowed more control? Or are you saying black people had a bunch of... He's basically just going off on tangents that are completely unrelated to her point. I think her point was like, hey, Alabama, you guys loved slaves. So it's not surprising that you want the birth rate to pop up so you have more people to play with and exploit and basically disenfranchise. It's like, it's not really about slavery. It's just about the exploitation, I think, of the state. So let's let them continue sparring here.
Alabama needs more kids because you think that those populations will include people who are maybe destitute and desperate enough. If you kick out the immigrants like a lot of y'all want to do, and you could make them do the work that's
like my whole point, is that she's just bringing up the idea that, like, yeah, of course, in a state that literally heavily abused slavery, we're talking about a dynamic where people want to encourage population growth, because more people means, if there's the same amount of resources with more people, it just means conditions for exploitation are ripe, right?
The migrants are doing
kids for poor people.
Because that kind of sounds slavery-ish.
Oh, hold on a second.
Yeah, she's, you know, it's provocative, you know, but just replace the word slavery with exploitation, and it makes a lot more sense to me, personally.
So hold on a second. You're saying that the people who are against, right, what they believe is the termination of life and destroying already fertilized embryos, that they want to prevent the deaths of babies because they're trying to prevent more people from being destitute and on the public dole? That makes no sense. You would be a eugenicist, you know, like a neo-Nazi, or yourself. The argument holds no...
Yeah, so he's basically saying, if I understand his argument, that if you're telling people in Alabama not to have kids because they're just going to get exploited, then that's basically being a eugenicist, and it goes down some really twisted rabbit holes. But what I think he's failing to understand is she's not... I don't really think anybody is telling the people of Alabama not to have kids, as I understand it. This is just basically political rhetoric with regards to the idea of some of these overreaching regulations from the states with regards to the idea of conception, right? So in this case, we're dealing with frozen embryos would be the starting issue here. So I think it's less about she doesn't want Alabamans to have babies, but more she's talking about the structures at play there that would benefit from it and benefit from all the attacks on contraception and abortion and everything in between. So, you know, just terribly, terribly bad faith stuff here from Stephen.
Water. Her positions are entirely indefensible, and it's nonsensical. This is what happens when you have somebody who has a program who nobody watches, with no business being on that kind of a platform, who's never had to rationalize their own thoughts. So hold on a second.
Okay, well, that just sounds like jealousy, but I'm not going to read too far into it.
We increased the population of this country because slavery, which makes no sense. Then we wouldn't have enough slaves to support it. Or you increase the slave population, in which case they overrun you and you cease to actually be slaveholders, but you become slaves yourselves, just like you saw with the West African slave trade.
By the way, what a twisted worldview. Stephen's basically, I mean, I've heard this before. It's not his idea. But the idea that you would enslave a population based on some, I don't know, some characteristic like race or whatever, or region or religion, you would enslave a population and then you would convince yourself, you would delude yourself into thinking that if for whatever reason I lose control of these people, they're going to enslave me back. This is like the underlying thread that really ties together a lot of like supremacy ideologies and a lot of nationalist movements and stuff. It's like, if you're not familiar with that line of thinking, definitely keep it in the back of your head. It's basically people who are oppressing, afraid of being oppressed. And so they continue the cycle, not understanding that, well, they are the entire cycle. Anyway, I digress.
Okay. And then they want to protect unfertilized embryos because they want fewer people on the public dole who are destitute. Is it me? Comment below. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Are the destitute people the ones that are affording the IVF?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Who's able to afford the IVF? I don't understand.
Yeah, so they're just being obtuse intentionally because that's obviously the demographic they're reaching for. But again, the commentary is based around the politics of it, the people making the decisions and the people voting for them, not necessarily the people having the children on the ground. But, you know, they have to dodge the context of it. Very important.
She has 3 children.
Oh.
And by the way, God love her. No problem, just to be clear. No problem with you having children. I think it's a great thing. Hey, you know why? Because it's one of life's greatest joys, and I have no right to rob you of that joy because I'm not you.
Yeah, so what is the argument here, Stephen? Who is robbing people of the joy of having children in this instance? When Joy Reid says, we have enough children, do we really need more children? She's not talking to people that may want to have children. She's talking about the system. She's talking about the idea of, hey, man, Alabama sucks pretty hard, right? Kentucky sucks pretty hard. A lot of issues there. Why are we promoting just rampant procreation in an environment where we can't even take care of the people that we have? That is not the same argument as saying, hey, you, Steven Crowder, should not have children, which, by the way, is something that I personally feel to be true.
You're not Joy.
Think about it. My body, my choice. Sure, okay. Well, again, this goes, oh, I see you're making the lazy argument as it relates to abortion because you are the people who want to control every single choice we make as far as what food we can eat, the size of our big gulps, what cars we can drive, what school.
It must be so easy to be a conservative, I swear to God. You literally find somebody who just says, hey, maybe we should take better care of our people and, you know, stop like promoting mindless growth. And you can twist that into every single fear imaginable while being overtly disrespectful to the person herself. It's like, whoa, it must be so easy. Whereas people like you and I have to sit here and just like actually care about the things we say. Truly, truly not fair on a cosmic level. But at the same time, I suppose, you know, at least we're not this guy, right?
I watched Ted Turner at the Cancun Climate Summit. This was back when it was still the Kyoto Protocol before it became the Paris
Climate Accord.
It was the Montreal Agreement, the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Accord. It's all the same thing. I watched Ted Turner support to applause China's one-child policy. This is the problem with neo-environmentalism. It is anti-human and it is anti-God. You replace God with Gaia.
You replace God with Gaia. I mean, which of these two concepts is more tangible? I'm just going to throw it out there. God or Gaia? Just world or heavens? Like, come on. This is such foolishness.
Secular version of God, Mother Earth. And then you use the lie that population is the problem for Earth. You basically end up looking like, you end up looking at humans like pestilence. So I've watched.
Wow, he's so close. Yeah, so maybe I wouldn't describe humanity as pestilence, but I would say that the success of our species and the proliferation of our influence over our environments, right? This is very population based, right? So if we had double the people, I can guarantee you that our influence would be greater in some capacity. And if we had 1/10 of the people, it would be highly likely that historically speaking, I guess, maybe not so much in recent times, I guess I'd have to ponder it, but historically, there would be significantly less impact over the environment. So to say that population is not tied to it at all is simply wrong. But of course, it's not the only factor. It's not even necessarily the most important factor. But to simply say that we need to grow forever, or to simply say population is not a factor, these are really poorly constructed arguments, for sure.
Birth rates are very important. Having a birth rate below 2.1, it creates this upside down pyramid. You have too many old people. You have not enough young people, obviously. Jeez. It's not just total population. So to give...
My main issue with all of these conversations is that when you hear people discuss the population decline and birth rates and replacement and sustainability and all this stuff, you know, if I was actually having a conversation, my immediate reaction would be to say, to what end? Like, what are we growing for? What are we growing for? Like, what would you like? With how many people would you like to reach? What would you like to do with all these people, right? And that's kind of where people like this tend to crumble. So there's a good reason why if you ever debate somebody on the right and they talk about the birth rates and stuff like that, if you try to talk to them about what these people are doing and what that looks like and how we're going to take care of them and how we're going to, you know, basically do better, it's like, it tends to quickly snowball into a very vibe-based conversation. And conversely, you know, you don't want to go out there saying we need to kill everybody. We need to go out there and reduce the population, because that's crazy in its own. But even talking about the idea of sustaining a population is taboo, much less reducing it consensually with the population all being on board, right? For environmental reasons or whatever, right? It's just one of these things where talking to somebody on the right is not really particularly interesting for me when it comes to environmentalist stuff. But every once in a while they say something that's just like, holy crap, like the population doesn't have any effect on our destruction of our environment. Like, sir, are you high? Like, please.
Give you an idea. Social Security. And you'll have people say, oh, everyone's been talking about Social Security for a long time. It's not this disaster that... I don't know if you know this. The money for Social Security is not necessarily coming from Social Security. You know that, right? They're just pulling money from wherever. So when Social Security was created, do you know how many workers per retirees there were? 159.4 to 1.
That's way higher than we thought.
And by the way, I had to double check that. Go to loudearthcrowder.com. You can check. We have the PDF there. This comes straight from the government.
Wow.
Were these the baby boomers?
No, this is the. Would this have been the Great Generation, or I guess kind of?
It's before that.
It's before that, because they would have been fighting it. What's?
Yeah, so they're talking about Social Security, how the population of workers and everything. I mean, they're going to completely ignore the idea of technology here, guaranteed. They're not going to say the word technology here, not even.
The name of the generation before that.
This is the holy crap. We had World War I, the outbreak of the plague, and also the freaking depression. Get me out of here generation.
This is Franz Ferdinand was a dick
The
generation.
silent generation.
Yeah.
The really pissed off and angry generation.
So it was 159.4 to 1. When they said, hey, we're going to take care of our older population, well, you have a one. I was going to say a ratio. Well, the ratio is 159 to 1. Let's round it up. 160. Go with me.
160
to 1. 2022, you have 2.8 workers per retiree.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Think about that.
insane.
And that's going to go lower. You don't need more kids. You're racist. So you have, as it relates to your own personal happiness, and I have no business telling you that you can or cannot have children or how many you have. And isn't it beautiful? It's an entirely consistent position to maintain, where I just say, hey, yeah, go nuts. Just make sure you support yourself and your own family. Don't suckle at the government teat. Now it doesn't matter what race you are. It's an entirely defensible position because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with autonomy and your right to what? Pursue happiness. Now this is not...
Pursue happiness. Okay, well, we can just kind of cut that off there. So here's the thing. We're talking about Social Security now and the idea that we're not replacing the number of workers, the ratio is dropping. My question to Stephen is, if you create a system that relies on growth and then growth inevitably stops because nothing can grow forever, how can that be blamed on the people that finally level off and are unable to sustain the growth? You are putting really all of the decision making, all of the effort, all of the pain on one generation of people when you do this. by saying Social Security only works if we keep replacing the population, and what about the idea that the cost, the average age people live is going up? What do you talk about technology and medicine? It's like, it's not just about the number of people. It's about that the system was predicated on growth and the idea that more people, that people wouldn't have these huge boons of technology that would make everybody more productive and make jobs, more powerful individually. You can produce more labor, which essentially means there's less technical need for more people to do the same amount of jobs. All this, Stephen, it's like, if the argument is just so simply that we need to just keep pumping out children to keep these systems going, that is a failing argument, and these systems should be either torn down, reevaluated, or sunsetted, in my opinion, over time. So, yeah, just really hard to watch a grown man and his cohorts basically just sit here and bounce an idea around a brick-walled room with a computer screen here and basically just completely eviscerate any semblance of good faith in this discussion. So, yeah, brutal.
So, Joy Reid, just to recap this, and I'm getting very near the end of this now, Joy Reid does believe that the average American shouldn't have more children, but she has 3 kids. And of course, many leftists do have large families. They live as though.
Wait, Joy Reid is a leftist? Oh my God. Oh my God. No, please stop.
They are conservatives in their personal lives because they understand that that is actually the root of true happiness. And they're happy to import cheap labor from other countries while creating a border crisis like we have never seen. They just don't want you to do anything about it. They never want you to do anything that is within your power or your control.
Yeah, he's reading a final script for this. It's kind of disgusting, but holy crap. Yeah, just the worst faith possible interpretation of her words. Her words aren't even that good. I'm not even a fan of them, but good Lord. This guy.
Go to Chippewa Falls tonight. Hey, talk with everyone you meet about the border crisis. Have kids. Have a family. Espouse those values. Mm-hmm. This is why they want to silence you. They want to silence you because when you get your points of view, your ideas in front of other people, guess what? They win. Do you know how I know? Because those are the ideas, those are the values that Joy Reid tries to live by in her own life.
What? All right, I literally hate this guy. I'm never going to watch Steven Crowder again all the way through. I'm going to skip through it, and I hope that he has a really terrible day today. So, wow. Absolutely painful. So, with that out of the way, let's recap here. So, Joy Reid basically said, look, with all of the stuff flying around, Roe v. Wade, in vitro fertilization, frozen embryos, birth control, everything, all the trans issues, it's basically like the question is always there. Like, should we just be, haphazardly pumping out children in places where the government clearly doesn't want to support them? And it's like, of course, you don't want to tell people to not do it. That's not the point. But this was wildly ran with by Steven Crowder and his little group of dorky lackeys. So kind of fun picking it apart, but that was really depressing. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think I'm ever going to watch him hang out with his buddies ever again. Like, I've seen his show enough times, but like trying to actually respond and like deal with it when he's just being like crazy racist and stupid is like painful. So I digress. I will be dumping on his ideas frequently, but we're not going to watch him be a goofball like that. No shot. I have better things to do, and you certainly have better things to do. So, yeah, there you go. Steven Crowder, clam chowder in the flesh.